I didn't even realise it broke world records until 6 months after I'd planned it. Been on the road now since September the 15th, been cycling nearly every day. Swimming the English Channel, the first ever triathlon to the top of the world.
Swim the English Channel, cycle across 17 countries, run to the top of Everest. Sound impossible? Well, it's not for Mitch Hutchcraft. He's an ex-Royal Marine turned extreme endurance athlete, and he's making history with the longest Everest climb ever, which is a 12,500 kilometre triathlon to the top of the world.
You did Kilimanjaro when you were 16, you did Mount Everest or Everest Base Camp when you were 18.
Yeah, 13 boats set off from England on that day. Only 2 made it. But right now, honestly, mate, I just need to financially and physically just survive. I lost my dad when I was 20. Eventually, I moved to Australia with some family, and then got the call that my dad had a week to live. Big motivating factor is if you've lost someone or someone that you care about. When you feel like giving up, just remember who's watching. That's why it's called limitless. That all you need is a positive mindset, and you can achieve your wildest dreams. Just life's too short. Follow your dream, and the only thing that's stopping you is your mind, not your body.
Hey, Matt here, just interrupting myself to say, can you believe that 62% of listeners to this podcast don't actually subscribe? Now, I know you like it because you listen to it, you come back and the stats are great, but 62% of you don't actually subscribe. So make sure you subscribe, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to your content or watch your content, and make sure that you never miss a future episode.
Guys, Matt Haycox here, and welcome to another live stream episode of No Bollocks with me, Matt Haycox. And today I have got a guest with a very noisy background, and if he was anywhere else in the world, he would be chastised for being so ill-prepared for joining a podcast. But now, Mitch Hutchcraft is with me.
I didn't even realise it broke world records until 6 months after I planned it.
Explorer, adventurer extraordinaire, and he's actually sat I think in a cafe in rural India, but best place he could find Wi-Fi because he is on what is called Limitless, which I'm not going to butcher it and do it in injustice by telling you exactly what it is, but it sounds the most horrendously challenging everything all at once. Mitch, we're going to go back into your story, but before we do, just set the scene and tell us what you're doing in the middle of Africa, because you're partway through this bonkers adventure.
I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, so I just luckily found a cafe in the middle of India. So I'm currently in country 17 of a 11,000k cycle ride, which is part of the overall challenge. So Limitless, it's a 12,500 kilometer triathlon. So start line Dover, finish line the summit of Everest. So I set off from England I swam the English Channel on the 15th of September, 18 and a half hours in some of the most horrible conditions ever. And since then, I've been cycling nearly every day to India, where I am now. This is country number 17. So I've got 2,000 kilometers left to go on the cycle. So it's swim the English Channel, an 11,000 kilometer cycle ride. And then when I get to sea level in India, when I get to the ocean, to West Bengal, I then ditch the bike, and it's 1,300 kilometers of running, yomping, hiking from sea level in India to Everest, and then summiting in what would be the longest climb of Everest in history and the first ever triathlon to the top of the world.
So by the time it finishes, what, about 6 months, did you say, beginning to end?
8 months in total. So from day one swimming the channel to summit in Everest, 7 to 8 months of essentially non-stop. Yeah, obviously the odd day here and there, but I've been on the road now since September the 15th, since swimming for England and France.
Oh, and where does the idea for this come from? I mean, is this like an officially recognised thing, like a triathlon or an Ironman, or did you invent it?
I mean, it could be, but it's like Guinness, for example, you have to pay thousands just to register it. And even so, when I went to do it, when you went to apply to break the record, it was like not applicable because basically it's too much admin because it's so big, so much to monitor it, to adjudicate it. It's crazy. But honestly, for me, when I first brought this up, I had no care about it being, I had no care about publicity. I had no care about it becoming massive. I didn't even realise it broke world records until 6 months after I'd planned it. So it all came into effect. I left the Royal Marines in 2021, and then I got asked straight away, basically, if I wanted to row across the Atlantic Ocean. So I was like, sounds like a great adventure. Next thing you know, 7 weeks. Totally unsupported with 3 guys, 7 weeks across the Atlantic. And that's where the dream of this popped into my head. So, as you can imagine, 12 hours of rowing every day for 7 weeks across an open ocean is a heck of a lot of time to think. And so there's my brain just thinking, what's next? And so I decided to just combine the series of dreams as a kid into one ultimate, crazy expedition. So swimming the English Channel, climbing Everest from sea level. So as I say, for me, climbing the highest mountain in the world, but from zero. So it's from zero to the top of the world. So I'm really pure about that. I've always kind of liked the idea of doing. So yeah, so I thought, okay, well, let's just see. And the timings in my head when I was trying to figure out logistically, it all kind of worked out with timings and seasons. And I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, if I swim the channel, all I've got to do then is just add a bike ride in the middle, an 11,000k bike ride across 17 countries, and then go on foot, running, hiking, climbing from Everest, and it essentially becomes the first triathlon to the top of the world, and that's where it was born. Yeah, I just plunged into it. I plunged into the dream last year. Quit work full time with not a clue how I was going to even begin to fund this, or just with a dream, and I've just been working my ass off ever since, basically, mate.
Well, just tell me some kind of technical or logistical things around this, because so when you talk about, for example, 18-hour swims,
yeah,
are we talking literally in the water for 18
hours, 19 minutes,
arms moving for 18 hours?
Yeah, so it depends.
Get a bit tired and tread water while someone throws you a sandwich.
No, yeah. So the way it works is kind of logistical nightmare. Just even getting the channel swim done. Normally, you have to book it years in advance. You basically have a boat, which obviously which is like 5 meters from you. So the boat where you have your support crew on, and yeah, you get in the beach, and then when you get in the beach in Dover, you're not allowed to touch the boat. You're not allowed to do anything until you get to France. So essentially, like, every 30 minutes on the dot. So every 30 minutes on the dot, they chuck you like a bottle off on the line that you like literally tread water, neck it, and then keep going. 18 hours, 19 minutes non-stop. And it was crazy because only 13 boats set off from England on that day, and only 2 made it. One of them being one of my friends, who's a much stronger swimmer than me. So he done it 6 hours quicker. And we had really horrendous weather coming. Normally there's 6 stages of like the wind, wind stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it's any more than 3, they don't even allow the boats to leave the harbour in Dover. And when I got to the end of my swim, the last 6 hours of my swim was like around 5. So if it had been like that when we left, we wouldn't have been able to go. So I spent essentially the last 6 hours more trying not to drown than to get across. It was, yeah, definitely the toughest day of my life. It would have been quicker if it wasn't for these conditions. But yeah, it kind of made it sweet. It kind of made the day kind of tough. It's great at the same time because now the 106 days I've been cycling since then, I can just think back and compare it to that one moment, to day one, which was the hardest ever. Yeah, and my friend that finished it, the only other person to swim it that day, who finished 6 hours before me, he won the award in the Channel Swimming Association. He won the award for the best swimmer in arduous conditions, just to give you an idea of how hard day one was. And it's not me trying to say, for me, it was, it took me a lot of time to even process that, about a month on the bike before I even looked back, and I was like, wow, that was tough.
And you said they chucked you some water, but it's literally a bottle of water. There's no big dangle on a fishing rod.
No, it changes every 30 minutes. So it's around 150 millimeter, 200 mil of basically hot feed. You've got a hot feed, hot liquid. So one will be like electrolyte, the next one might be like sugar, Nesquik. But yeah, it might be like electrolyte, Nesquik, half a banana every hour kind of thing. You might try and get that down, but I'm talking, 20 seconds, and then 20 seconds, then you're swimming again non-stop.
Hey, Matt here, just interrupting myself quickly to say thank you for listening to No Bollocks. But did you also know I've got another podcast, Stripping Off with Matt Haycox. Very different. No Bollocks is the quick daily business tactics that you need, but Stripping Off, we go deep with a CEO, with a celebrity, with an athlete, with an international inspiring character. We find out what makes them tick, we find out how they got to where they got to, and we find out how you can learn and benefit from them too. So jump on over to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to your content, and I'll see you on a future episode.
And what are you wearing? Are you in a wetsuit?
No, just body smugglers and goggles. Yeah. So I tried to put on as much weight as possible. It was around 16.5. Around 16.5. Because to do it properly, for it to be recognised, it's no wetsuit, because the wetsuit, I did consider it, obviously, because this is essentially a triathlon. So, it's kind of, you do a triathlon in a wetsuit. But after speaking to some coaches and that, there's actually more benefits in doing it without a wetsuit. So, yeah, it was just balls out for 18 and a half hours with no wetsuit.
Well, what about during the darkness? What happens when it's dark?
Yeah, so I left at 4 a.m. So it was pitch black for the first 2 hours. And essentially, you just follow the lights of the boat, which is like ahead of you, and you just hope you don't swim into it. And then, and I finished at 11 p.m. the next day. I mean, the following evening. So for the last 4 or 5 hours, it was pitch black as well, and that's when the conditions got crazy. That was just when it was trying not to drown.
And what comes next? Next is a cycle straight after that, is it?
Yeah, so that actually made me ill. So I inhaled like so many liters of seawater. I got tonsillitis and I was really, really sick. Obviously, I knew I'd need a couple of days to reset before then getting on the cycle.
But had you not been sick, how long were you going to take before you could start?
Just a couple of days, literally, to like get the bike sorted, get the logistics sorted, because I had 2 camera people with me just to get things sorted and then go. I ended up completely on my ass for 6 days, not being able to eat anything. I lost 2 kilos just 2 kilograms just in the swim in the 6 days and the 5 days I followed, which was crazy. And then so then the next stage started from the beach that I crawled out from, and the first. So then we started, so France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, Turkey. Slovakia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Turkey. So that was just phase 1. But the first 3,000 kilometers of the bike ride from France until Budapest, I actually also, for a lot of it, towed my golden retriever in a doggy trailer.
And the route
to make it worse.
out. Is it
So it's as planned out as it can be. I planned it out myself because, as with any kind of bike expedition, you can plan it out as best as you can, but you never know even where you're sleeping each night, because you never know if you're going to get injured, what problems you're going to have. It's a great adventure because that's where you kind of just improvise and adapt on the ground, where you're going to be this night. A mixture of like wild camping in hotels and motels. By the time we had like a camper van for the first few weeks. But then for like the rest of Europe and the whole of Turkey, I had a banned up old school bus that my friend drove 3,000 kilometers from England, and we were just wild camping in like the mountains in this banned up school bus in -5. It was crazy.
Talk to me about the monetary side of this. As in what would doing an expedition like this cost you? How do you fund it? Are you just doing it for the pure love, or is there some monetization at the end of it?
No monetization for me. As I said, when I first thought this up, it was just all about a dream that I've always wanted to do as a kid. But obviously now it's become many reasons of why I'm doing it now. So first and foremost, a dream since a child. I lost my dad when I was 20. So for me, a massive kind of, as a lot of people probably talked about in the show, big motivating factor is if you've lost someone or someone you care about. So, that's kind of a big motivator for me. I always think of this image, this quote, when you feel like giving up, just remember who's watching. For me, that's a big one. So for me, making friends and family proud. And, but as well as that, this is for a great little charity as well. So, a year before this in training, I cycled across the USA, 5,000K across the United States. In training, like that was completely on my own solo for this organization that I found called SavSim. So they're based out of London, and they've made a mental health course using wildlife and nature to treat veterans of PTSD. So they literally made like a week-long called Warriors of Hope course, where people will go and get selected and go and stay at the zoo and have a week of basically being looked after, working with the animals. But they also use the skills of these veterans that are transitioning into civilian life. So they use their skills to send them to anti-poaching projects around the world. So they've just got back from a dehorning program in South Africa, hoping to save the white rhino. So so for me, making my family proud, knowing my dad's looking down on me, obviously raise as much money for his charity as possible. And as I say, before this, I had no clue about becoming big. I had no care about becoming famous. I didn't even realize they broke world records, as I say, until 6 months after I planned it. But then I thought, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to do the longest climb of Everest in history, I might as well do as much good of it as possible and get every ounce of good out of it as I can. I had a friend message me at the start that I hadn't spoken to in 15 years in secondary school, and he said, "Mitch, I've been following your journey. You're the reason I got out of bed this morning to go to the gym." And that for me was more powerful than £1 million. And moments like that just drive me through. And so now it's become also an opportunity to inspire millions along the way, that you haven't got to be a super athlete. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not a cyclist. I'm not a swimmer. I'm not a runner. I'm not even I would never consider myself these things. But it's to prove that's why it's called Limitless, that all you need is a positive mindset and you can achieve your wildest dreams.
And how much have you raised so far for the charity?
So far, not as much as we'd hope. Only about 6 or 7 grand, but the last half of it is what we knew. That's when things will really kick off. It's a 3-month cycle. When we transition onto the kind of running hiking phase, that's when things get really tough. And obviously, things always kick off towards the end. And obviously, when we've got a separate fund, the actual expedition costs, sponsorship costs, that's the kind of bit we're really struggling with at the moment. But the second we hit that target, every penny after goes towards the charity. But obviously on the Instagram, the link to the charity on there that everyone can donate to, that's what 100% just goes straight to them. 100% goes straight to the charity on there. But obviously we've got a separate account for anyone, because now we've got a professional production team who want to sponsor, support, to get their name and logo onto the longest climb of Everest in history. So anyone else that wants to help, we are really in need, that's for sure.
Well, we'll make sure all the links are on the show notes. I assume it's like a GoFundMe type link, or you
appreciate it. Yeah, so the one on the Instagram homepage on the bio is just a gift star, so it's basically like that. So you just go on there and you can donate there. But obviously, at the same time, if you could, the other important thing is we still only raised about half of the funds needed to actually complete the expedition. So we're reaching out to any businesses, anyone who might want to get involved, in this. It's come a long way. As I say, I don't really care much for social media, but 168,000 followers in only 5 months. My team's done so well, and I think if you've got that, you have a responsibility to do good with it, if that makes sense. You've got a responsibility to spread some positivity, but also, it kind of, for companies having the marketing reach, it would be great to have anyone on board that would like to support, because we do need it.
And tell me, listen, I am as optimistic as I know you are. You are resilient, so I have no doubts whatsoever. You'll get what you need, and you get to the end. But just tell me and our listeners, from a practical perspective.
Yeah.
What happens if you hit a period where you've run out of money and there's a lag between raising more? I mean, do you literally chill in that cafe in India for two or 3 weeks extra?
Well, for me, I would do everything I can just to keep pushing forward. Like I say, I worked before this as much as I can to get a little bit of savings off my own back, which are now basically gone. Like I say, I quit work in February last year to train, because I knew there's no chance of me pulling this off. Logistically, obviously training for something like this, let alone logistically trying to do meetings for fundraising, and I knew there was no chance. So I quit work then, just trying to do it. But worst case scenario, if push comes to shove, I'd have to continue completely on my own here, and I'd have to cut away the guys that are with me doing the production, which is obviously not ideal, but let's hope it doesn't come to that, because they're an amazing team, and the whole story we've got so far is incredible. I'd love to finish that off, but no, worst case scenario, I wouldn't be giving up. I would be just reaching out to every person I can whilst on the bike cycling, just trying to say, come on, let's do this together. So hopefully it won't come to it. As I say, it's the start of the new year, and we've still got 5 months left of the expedition.
How short are you at the moment then?
In terms of actual figures, do you mean?
Yeah.
Figures. Yeah. So on my own, there's originally, it was quite a lot, but now we have 2 producers making all the professional content. So obviously the production fees, as you know, cost quite a lot. So now to pay for everything, including 5 months, the rest of Everest production costs, you're probably talking between around 80 to 100K.
Extra needed, yeah.
That is what, we've already probably raised around 80 to 100, but it would be basically, we're about half, we raised pretty much half. So that again, around 100 would pay for everything. The next 5 months would be production costs covered. That would be obviously not a penny in anyone's own pocket, in my own pocket. Expedition costs, the rest of Everest, obviously Everest alone is $40,000, as you can imagine that. $40,000 just for Everest. The rest, and obviously most importantly as well, being able to make this story, to spread the story as far and wide, because the team I've got here are amazing. I'm sure you watched The Hardest Geezer, Run Across Africa.
Yeah.
The Hardest Geezer, yeah. So literally his head producer, editor, is my mate at the hotel here. He's the guy with me on the road every day, producing the world-class content. He's such a great guy, and I'm so lucky to have him as a friend. But he's so talented, yeah. So it just brings a lot more to the expedition to be able to tell the story of what we're doing, as well as the challenge itself.
But tell me, because I'm sure some of the people watching, listening are interested in this, because if they're not interested, they probably don't appreciate what goes in. You and I were talking just off camera, and I said that I'd done Killy a few years ago.
Yeah.
And when I did it, I took my videographer with me, and because I wanted to make a documentary out of myself, whether it's for posterity or YouTube or whatever else.
Exactly.
But as challenging as it was for me, guess what? No one gets to see is my videographer probably did double, if not 2.5 times the distance, because I walked
as well, and he was up and down.
He's going in front to get the front angle, running back to get the back angle, up back and forth like this, and did the entirety. It's actually quite funny. He's not with me anymore, but he still texts now and again. He's a good lad, and
incredible.
We got to the summit. And he wore half finger gloves, whatever you call them, short finger gloves, because he wanted to control the camera properly. And we got to the top, and by the time we got to the top, he was lying on the floor, couldn't speak, couldn't move his fingers, and he's like, somebody help me. I'm like, listen, mate, get on your fucking feet. Like,
that's hilarious.
Get on your feet, get those fucking fingers working.
That's hilarious.
You are not missing this.
Oh my God.
He's shaking and holding the camera. But
I've got
guys.
similar.
They got to be as exercise ready as you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as I say, at the moment it's just me and Stan. So Stan is my cameraman, producer. He's a great guy, and he's working so hard. But when we get to Everest himself, for example, he's going to do the whole 200k hike with me to Everest, come all the way to base camp, and then he's going to be trekking from base camp to the camp before, like every single day to be bringing footage down, to be making the negative. Yeah, so obviously not from that base camp up to the summit. The people I'm climbing with, like the guides and my friends, they're going to be filming that. But all of that, so he's going to be climbing up and down from base camp like every other day to get the footage. So I understand like how hard they work, and this guy's great. I just pray that we've got the kind of capacity to keep them on board by the time that comes around. But as you know, telling the story of it is so it's important. I didn't really, and now I can kind of see the benefit of it, and to leave something behind after it's done.
Let's rewind a bit into your background. Well, just
of course.
We kind of talked a lot before we go back, but I guess everyone listening and watching up to this point is obviously clearly well aware of the challenges. What a great personality you've obviously got, and the resilience and excitement. But I want to know, I guess, what's the background that makes a nutter like you? Because I think when I look at your notes, it's not just what you're doing now. I think you did Kilimanjaro when you were 16. You did Mount Everest or Everest Base Camp when you were 18. Yeah. 20. Yeah. You did unassisted, I think, solo, right?
One of them, yes. Well, not completely unassisted, yes. So to answer your question, first of all, probably it's just a combination of ADHD and caffeine which does it. No, but just since a kid, mate, I've just not been comfortable if I wasn't outdoors doing things, And I moved to Cyprus. I grew up in Cyprus when I was like 11 to 16. And that's where the kind of dream came in. I was with my dad. I worked for 2 years on my own.
Dad was an army man at the time as well.
No, he wasn't. No. So everyone thinks that. No, we just went over there and went on holiday one day. And he was like, I hope you liked it. So we're moving over there. I was like, oh, great. So next thing you know, there's me like speaking Greek, 8, 9, and 10 in Cyprus. It was an amazing experience. But so I worked with him for a year and a half. About a year and a half when I was 14, coming 15, because my first dream was Kilimanjaro because for me, that was always, even then, the first step to Everest, the first big step, to get above there.
Why was it a dream? As in, what was the, I guess, what gave you that interest in that kind of thing?
It's a good question. I grew up in East Anglia, in a farm in the middle of the flattest part of the UK. So I've probably always been obsessed with mountains. But I remember being sat around my nan's reading a book from Brian Blessed. Brian Blessed? Called Galahad on Everest. So he actually attempted to climb Everest in the early 2000s or 90s. And I remember being an 8-year-old sat around my nan's reading this book, and the seed was just set. The dream was set there. So and it evolved from there. So working with my dad for like a year and a half to raise money to go to Kilimanjaro. So I found a guide to do it, but it took me a year just to find a company who'd let me go on my own under 18. So I just turned 16, flew to Kilimanjaro on my own. It was just me, my 64-year-old African guide, and one porter, and climbed Kili. And like he said, he's been doing it for 47 years, and I was the youngest person he'd ever known to take up there. Really? So that was a great bit of fun. But to be on your own, and then fast forward 2 years in a group, and ended up going to base camp. That first time I laid eyes on Everest, first time you lay eyes on it is something special. And I remember being 18, 19, and writing in one of the lodges, I'll be back. And it's been crazy to think. But then a year later after that, essentially, I moved to Australia with some family, and then got the call that my dad had a week to live. So I was on the plane back, and then kind of life rolled a little bit strange from then. So within like 6 months of incapacity, I got back, and within a week or two he'd gone. And then I was sat twiddling my thumbs, working in the gym, not knowing what to do with my life. And so it just hit me. One of the other major dreams of mine since a kid was to join the Royal Marines. You know, one of the hardest infantry units in the world. That's something I'd always spoke about with him. So I just thought, fuck it, this is the time to do it. You know what I mean? Like, why not just apply? So within 6 months, I'd applied. I wasn't even meant to be able to join, actually, because I'd had a total knee reconstruction surgery done in Australia. But there was no record of it on my British medical records. It was done in Australia. So I just went through, told them I had surgery, but I didn't tell them the details. And luckily, yeah, 6 months later, I managed to get through. A combination of luck, you know, because it is luck as well. A combination of luck and hard work. Got through 21, 22. And then next thing you know, for 5.5 years, having some amazing times in the Royal Marines. Yeah, and I wouldn't be where I am today without these experiences, you know, without the people I met in the discipline. Say when? Why? So yeah, good question. Just the nature of when I joined, obviously, just after everything was going on. Not that it was boring, but it was in a sense. You know, not much going on, same things here and there. But mostly just because that itch for just crazy adventure was always there in the back of my mind. You know, so after 5 years, I was like, 5.5 years, I was like, right, it's just time for the next challenge, really. And had some amazing times in there. And like I say, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do everything I have today, because 6 months after leaving the Marines, it was through a friend in the Marines who asked me, do I want to row across the Atlantic unsupported? So I was like, that sounds like a true adventure. So that's when I signed up to that, and which I wouldn't have been able to do if it hadn't been my time in the Marines. And then this dream was born, and then it's gone from there, really. I wouldn't have done everything, you know. A year after that, so year and a half ago, I flew my bike to America and cycled 5,000 across the US, as I say. And I wouldn't have even done that if it wasn't in preparation for this, basically. So I kind of have a lot to owe for my time in Marines, for sure.
And what does a man like you do for a job when he was working? Because I know you said you'd quit your job to do this. I mean, what positive? I mean, you're not sat there in an office.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, I did work with animals when I was younger, so I nearly went back to that. But as with a lot of people do, as you know, when they leave the military, it's just kind of the security industry. So I just kind of delved into that, mate. And the last 6 months I was had a close protection role, just traveling around the world as a bodyguard with some really high net worth individuals. So it was literally just, again, the worst job in the world, flying around doing 12-hour shifts of nothing, and yeah, impossible to train, you know, impossible to prepare. So I just had to, even though it was obviously a big price raise from the Marines and the military, if I had any hope of achieving my dreams, I had to just go balls out and bet everything in one. And I'm very lucky to be here today to get this far.
And when you've done it, because it is a when, not an if. I mean, what is possibly the next challenge after this?
Oh, right now, mate, it's just surviving this 8-month mammoth journey. I'll think about it after. Let's see. In one way, I've seen, because I would have cycled already over halfway around the world. I might continue around and do a full circle. Well, I've got a couple of other good ones as well. Like you've got like the 7 summits. There's one dream I might do one day, which is you've got this big expedition called the Explorers Grand Slam. You may have heard of it. So the Explorers Grand Slam is climbing the highest mountain on each continent, as well as doing the North and South Pole, as well as doing both. So
in a time.
There's no time limit, but probably like a 12-month period would be hard. You know what I mean? To climb all the highest mountains in the world. But for me, kind of obviously in the kind of spirit of this, the dream one day would be to do it. So a sea to summit Explorers Grand Slam. So from sea level to the highest point on each continent, as well as the North and South Pole, one day. But I mean, I shouldn't. People will be, my family and friends will be slapping me for even bringing it up right now. But you know what it's like. It's same as when I was rowing the Atlantic, thinking about this. When you're on the bike for 10, 11 hours a day for 3 months, you think about all sorts. Yeah. But right now, honestly, mate, I just need to financially and physically just survive the next 4 or 5 months.
Well, listen, we're going to help you raise some money. We're going to make sure we get you some good promos, some good shout outs, and I will
appreciate it.
Click on the link myself. We're going to put those links up. Mitch, it's been a pleasure having you here, mate. I don't want to keep you too much from you. You probably need a curry and a sleep to get you ready.
Mate, I didn't even tell you. With the story this morning, I had violent food poisoning. Literally, this morning I was up. I threw up about 10 times. I was up until 6 a.m. Both ends, and I still managed to get up.
Daddy belly.
First, I didn't think it would happen in day 2 in India, but yeah. But somehow I managed to get out of bed I went to bed at 6 a.m. I managed to get out of bed at 10 and still do 100k. So it was better than nothing. Only 5 hours today, but considering I've been throwing up, I was quite happy with that.
Well, listen, before you go, any last messages, last links, anything you want to tell everybody? I mean, this.
No, I mean, just
out. It'll go out recorded in a couple of weeks' time, so there's plenty of time.
I appreciate just to reiterate. I appreciate it, mate. Yeah, just to reiterate what we said. First of all, the message to anyone out there watching who wants to do something, just life's too short. Follow your dream, and the only thing that's stopping you is your mind, not your body. One of my favourite sayings is, so many are capable, but many are willing. That's the only difference. So everyone's capable, but not everyone's willing. But yeah, so apart from that, please, if you can follow along, it's the same for YouTube and Instagram. Mitch Hutch. It's as simple as that. The link for the GoFundMe is on there, of the Givestar, which is on there. Just Mitch Hutch, MITCH, HUTCH. And again, so that on there is the link to directly to the charity, which is 100% for charity. But equally, as I say, if anyone wants to come on board and sponsor and get some world-class content in the longest climb of Everest in history, please let us know. The producers are amazing, and you get a heck of a lot back from it. And that's not me trying to say, but there's some amazing guys and girls behind us. So that's about it. Thank you so much, Matt.
Well, listen, Mitch, thanks again, buddy. And as we said before we started recording, I'll be on Everest at the first and second week.
Hopefully we'll see you.
I hope I'm going to share a beer or a glass of red up there. I'll be sneaking a little bottle of red into my...
Absolutely, mate. We've got a bottle of whiskey. I've got a bottle of whiskey that we finally managed to get here as well. We've still got that. Because after 7 hours, after 7 Islamic countries, we're finally in one that allows whiskey now. So we're loving it.
Well, save me a couple of fingers full. Mitch, also have you, buddy. Good luck, mate.
Mate, legend. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.